Hey DS Math staff, it's Chris Weber and Anthony Claypool. We're going to talk to you about how you use these DS Math maps today. Quick advertisement and commercial though. If you ever need support from Chris or Anthony, please email us from your Google Distinctive Schools account and we will get back to you immediately or as soon as we possibly can. In addition, Chris will be on each campus 2 full days a month to do anything and everything you might need to help this be super successful. What we'd like to talk about today is how in the world you use DS Math. How do you access it? What are the different pieces, parts of it? The first thing you need to do, if you're following along with us or if you're trying to make this happen, is to log into your Google Distinctive Schools account, just as I have. Next, go to Sites. When you click on Sites, you're going to see iTeacher. Please click on iTeacher. And iTeacher is going to open up Distinctive Schools Math for the Common Core. Here it is, in all its glory. There's a brief description here. You're not seeing too much more on this home page, although I will point out that on the left-hand side you have each of the grade levels, and each of the blocks. Just to test this out and to show you what it looks like, let's go to 3rd grade and let's click on 3rd grade block 1. These maps should look familiar, but now they're in website form. So really, you guys, we're going to create several of these videos that are more specific in nature. This one's super general. We just want to talk to you about what you see on these math maps and what are some of the different active hyperlinks that you can reference. The first thing you see, and all the grade level blocks look the same, is Distinctive Schools Math for the Common Core. It identifies the block 1 in this case, the months that this block covers, and the number of instructional days. One of the next key pieces that you see is Common Formative Assessment. We're going to go into this more later, but suffice to say that you can click on this, and you should click on this. Please, 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 early, immediately at the very beginning of planning for a block. Let's do that super fast. You're going to see that it opens up a Google Doc, and this Google Doc is, in fact, the Common Formative Assessment, or the CFA, for Block 1. We are going to be printing these for y'all. But please look at them early and often because we want to make sure you're using the rigor that's represented in these problems and the format, the way the problems are written. Notice they're open-ended. Notice that the kids have to explain answers. That's going to typically be the case. So we definitely want you to be looking at these, and you can do that directly from the map itself. Back to the map, the next thing moving from top to bottom you see is the anchor standard. Now, these are also known as domains or clusters in the Common Core, and there are about 5 per grade level. This one in 3rd grade, this first one is known as Number and Operations in Base 10, or NBT. Next, you'll see an overarching standard. So there are several of these, there are several numbered standards within each overarching standard. This one has to do with place value. We've taken this language, the overarching standard language, the anchor standard language, and the standard language directly from the Common Core. So we didn't monkey or mess with it or translate it at all. So review what the numbered standard says, and then for every numbered standard, in other words for NBT1, you're going to see in yellow a substandard, rounding in this case, skills, rounding to 10 and rounding to 100 for whole numbers, and resources and strategies. So as you look at each of the numbered standards, let's scroll down and look at NBT2, which is adding and subtracting within 1,000. We've bolded the parts that are kind of the biggest pieces of these standards. Notice that, of course, there are different different substandards, and there are different skills. Some of the standards have several skills, some have one, but we wanted to kind of tease out or unpack the different skills that were represented within a standard. Okay, back up to the first standard. We want to show you not just the standard pieces, which are so important, but some of the active links as well. There are only a few, and we'll describe these more fully later, kind of what you're seeing and what they represent. The purpose of this video is just to show you kind of what happens when you click on each of these active links. The pieces that say anchor problems, and notice that it's 3rd grade, NBT, that's the anchor standard, NBT 1, or the first standard. You're going to see anchor problems. This one's rounding to 10. What happens when I click on these anchor problems? Well, it takes me to IXL. IXL, as many of you know, is just an awesome website. And every single school has a subscription to IXL for each teacher. So please, when you're using these, when you're using the DS Math for the Common Core website, when you're using the math program, to make sure it's optimally functional, log in to IXL. And you're going to log into some of the other things as well, just to make sure that this is working out for you. But you'll see that this represents, or excuse me, that this, when you click on that, it opens problems. And you can, from that link, as I'm doing right now, you can literally answer the question, submit, and it's going to produce a new problem for you. When you're logged in, you can do this forever. If you're not logged in, it will top out at 20 problems, and then it'll force you to log in. We think these problems are going to be incredibly important for you and me, for us to understand what these standards mean, what they look like, because IXL has correlated to the Common Core standards, yes. But it's also going to be useful during instruction itself. Imagine with your smart boards that you can literally use this website to solve problems as you're modeling and also as you're solving problems with kiddos. All right, back to the website itself. This is the DS Math for the Common Core website. You can see there are other anchor problems. We will not click on them. You can also see there's an anchor lesson for this standard. What is this? Well, we'll go through a little bit more detail in another video, but basically what you're seeing here is we being me and the summer math crew, awesome folks from our classrooms who were creating these math maps over the summer, have created just gradual release of responsibility lessons that contain the different parts of a gradual release lesson design that we'd want to see. This is the whole lesson design. And we're going to talk more specifically in subsequent videos about whether your lessons need to look like this and why the lessons look the way they do. But just know that when you click on Anchor Lesson, that's what you're going to see is a Google Doc that represents a lesson. The next thing working down are worksheets. Now, folks, worksheets don't teach kids, or as we say, worksheets don't build dendrites. So we definitely want to be prudent with using worksheets. We're going to talk more specifically about the do's and the don'ts of worksheets, but suffice to say that we don't want to be killing a lot of trees, spending money on paper, when within the classroom we can be using alternate means of engaging kids in authentic and rich problem solving. But there are worksheets available for you in each of the standard sections. Okay, so you can see here there's a worksheet for rounding to 10, there's another one for rounding to 10, and one for rounding to 100. For the first block, we've made copies for you, but in subsequent blocks, we're going to revisit that notion because, man, we really don't want to incur costs or waste paper when it's not necessary, but we also really want to emphasize and kind of transition from worksheet-driven teaching and learning to learning that's more authentic and more interactive. The next thing as we move on down that I'm going to make you aware of, but not click on, is extend. So you're going to see throughout the grade levels, throughout the blocks, extend lessons. And these are our efforts to provide resources for you all and for your kids when they're ready to go to greater levels of depth and complexity. So I won't click on this active link now, but suffice to say, and know when you see it, that these are intended to be more complex. We are so excited about Teacher Studio, and we are ready to go live. Y'all, this is going to be one of the biggest parts of DS Math for the Common Core, because Teacher Studio is going to allow us to post all of our PowerPoints and activities and great ideas on a secure central site, Teacher Studio, but it's also going to allow us to go and search for resources that our colleagues in DS have posted. But we're not quite ready to go live with that yet, but that you're going to see that as well. What is live already, as we scroll down, are Khan Academy videos. So these are intended to be used to kind of give us as teachers ideas about how to best teach different concepts and maybe some strategies. We probably won't be using this with all of our kids because we as adults, we as live people are better at that. But it may be appropriate when we're providing more intervention or kind of differentiated supports for kids who need a different way of doing it. So sure enough, if we click on this, it's going to take us directly to the video about rounding whole numbers. So all we have to do is wait for it to load and then push play. So it's quite convenient. The other thing that we've linked is BrainPop videos. So this is particularly true in the lower grade levels, less true in the upper grade levels. But we're so excited about having these resources for adults and in certain cases for our kids themselves. The other thing I want to note is Perfection Learning and Saxon. First, Perfection Learning. These are not active links, but we have Perfection Learning booklets. And you guys, the reason for doing this is for 2 more years, we are taking the ISAT before PARCC assessments. PARCC is the name of the company that's going to be preparing Common Core assessments for us. But until that point, we're still taking the ISAT. Now, I'm guaranteeing, that's right, Chris Weber is guaranteeing that if we do DS Math for the Common Core well, our kids will perform better on the ISAT than they ever have. Why? Because there's fewer concepts, which is going to allow more of our kids to get to mastery, and those kids who get to mastery kind of quickly, it's going to allow them to go deeper. Yes, it's true that some of the Common Core standards, some of the concepts assessed on the ISAT are not Common Core standards in a grade level. But we're teaching kids to problem solve. We're teaching them to think. So I'm confident that they're going to do better on whatever they're asked to do on the ISAT. However, we have provided perfection learning lessons, or I should say, we've specified which perfection learning lessons may be appropriate in a given block. So here you can see that we're recommending that Section 1 number sense and mastery test may go well with this particular standard. So feel confident that by the time ISAT comes around late February, early March, we've embedded perfection learning lessons that should kind of make us feel comfortable and confident. The other thing you see, if you'd like it, is we've identified the Saxon lesson numbers that you might be able to utilize, particularly the resource guide, as you're teaching these different concepts. You know, beware, of course, Saxon is probably not doing things to the depth and the complexity that's represented in the Common Core, so use caution. But as we know, Saxon does give us ideas about how to teach some stuff, so we wanted to give you that resource as well. As we talk later in a subsequent video about using DS Math for the Common Core, we're going to show you that you really could just use IXL and maybe a worksheet, or at least I should say a portion of a worksheet, to really completely address the learning and teaching needs that we have in classrooms. Okay, folks, the only other thing I want to point out as I scroll down is that one block, in this case, this is 3rd grade block 1, contains 1, and then here's 2, the second standard, and then 3. 3 standards only are addressed in these 29 days of instruction. Now, on the last day of the instructional block, what we'd love to do is give that CFA, all of us across the network. And as you can see, there is another common formative assessment link on the bottom. Same common formative assessment, but we wanted to put it in 2 locations for y'all. Symbolically, what that means is before you start teaching, you want to look at that CFA so you know the target that you're helping kids reach. And then, of course, at the bottom, that's how we're going to culminate a block. One more thing, y'all. We want to hear from you. We want to respond to your questions and your comments. So there is a place at the bottom of each of the block links for you to add comments, questions, concerns, ideas. Please add them here because we're going to respond to them, but your colleagues will also be able to see them as they log on. Okay, folks, that's our video on the basics of DS Math for the Common Core website.